First, the Supreme Court issues two major rulings Friday. Both decisions reflect the conservative-liberal split on the court. Conservative justices struck down President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan while also setting a new limit on the power of the executive branch. The court also ruled on a First Amendment case involving whether creative businesses can refuse service to LGBTQ+ customers. The rulings came on the last day of the court's 2023 session. Here's CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett.
Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts said the Biden administration overstepped its legal authority to justify its sweeping student loan cancellation plan. A 2003 law allows the administration to, quote, waive or modify statutes pertaining to student loans during national emergencies. Roberts wrote, it does not permit basic and fundamental changes in the scheme designed by Congress. The administration sought to use the COVID emergency to cancel some $400 billion in student loans, one of the most expensive executive actions in U.S. history. At the White House, President Biden said he would seek other ways to fulfill a campaign promise to lower student debt burdens.
I didn't give borrowers false hope, but the Republicans snatched away the hope that they were given, and it's real hope.
Around 40 million Americans would have qualified for some debt forgiveness, including Howard University graduate Evan Quaintance, who owes about $45,000. Your reaction to the court's ruling today?
Disappointed, but not surprised. I didn't come up in a neighborhood or in a family that had the pre-existing conditions to give me the toolkit to get into school. The only way me and my siblings knew how to get there was to pay for it, and the easiest way for us to do that was for student loans.
The plan would have forgiven up to $20,000 in loan debt to some borrowers. 6 Republican-led states sued to block the program, including Iowa, where Brenna Byrd is Attorney General.
I don't think it's right that people who chose not to go to college have to pay other people's loans.
The Supreme Court's conservative majority also prevailed on a case pitting free speech against gay rights. Lori Smith, a web designer from Colorado, wanted to create specialized web pages for weddings, but not for same-sex couples, arguing doing so would violate her First Amendment rights.
I'm a Christian. I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and I want to create messages that are consistent with that faith.
In a 6-3 opinion, the court sided with Smith, ruling that her free speech rights superseded state anti-discrimination laws. Writing for the majority, Justice Neil Gorsuch said, Colorado seeks to force an individual to speak in ways that align with its views, but defy her conscience about a matter of major significance.
Nobody should be forced to create a message that goes against the core of who they are and what they believe.
Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in a dissent, today the court, for the first time in its history, grants a business open to the public a constitutional right to refuse to serve members of a protected class.
It sets precedent moving forward that it is okay to discriminate against LGBTQ people in America.
Major Garrett joins us now. So, Major, let's kind of cut to the chase here. Do these decisions really tell us a lot about the Trump White House legacy?
So, Catherine, as you well know, there are lots of appraisals of the Trump presidency. And even those who love the Trump presidency would concede some things happened haphazardly or slightly accidentally. Not the Supreme Court. As a candidate, Donald Trump identified the importance of the Supreme Court, was the first in Republican or Democratic Party history to announce a list of candidates that he would, if he got the nomination or the presidency, appoint to the high court. There was tremendous intentionality about solidifying, to the best of his ability, for however long he was president, a conservative majority on the court. 3 justices that now comprise a 6-seat conservative majority on that court reflect that intent from President Trump. And that legacy, it flows through the Dobbs decision. It flows through the end of affirmative action. It flows through the student loan decision. It flows through deciding on behalf of religious liberty and free speech against the state anti-discrimination law in Colorado. All of those decisions, which are very high profile, they're marquee decisions for conservatives across this country, reflect that advocacy first by candidate Trump, then confirmation during his presidency.
And just to state the obvious, you're talking about a group of individuals who are relatively young, who will be on this court for decades, really set the direction for the country from the judicial branch, even if that's in conflict with what's happening in Congress or sort of among the public sentiment.
Right, and the composition of the court matters not only in rulings from the court, but what the court decides to rule on in the first place. What are its interests? What does it want to bring before the court? And in several cases this term, the court could have said, no, that's not really a matter that interests us. But the conservatives say, yes, we are interested in that, and limiting things like the quote-unquote administrative state, weighing in on the student loan thing, saying, no, you didn't have congressional authorization. Whatever the benefits of this program might or might have, we don't care. You didn't have the authorization, and so we're not going to give that to you. That kind of interest first and then ruling conservatism after is another part of the legacy.
In the final few seconds, look, President Biden made a lot of promises about student loan relief, which are not going to happen in the short term. What are the political impacts for him in 2024?
Catherine, I talked to a gentleman named Evan Quaintance, who is a recent graduate of Howard University, big fan of this, was expecting the court to rule against it. I said, are you going to hold President Biden accountable politically? He goes, no, he gave it a good effort. He really did. I just hope we can figure out a way to make the court better. I talked to the Attorney General of Iowa, Republican, part of the suit to stop this. I said, what about your constituents who could have benefited? She goes, you know what? It doesn't matter. It wasn't the law, and I want the law enforced regardless of the consequences for my constituents. So that's a pretty across-the-board read politically of where this is heading.
So no big consequence for the president, you don't see?
Not large consequence, and if he continues to say, I'm advocating for it, my sense is that those who want him to continue to advocate for it will give him credit.
Okay, Major Garrett, thank you as always for your analysis. For more, let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, does the White House have any legal options or other options at this point?
They do have some other options. They can, of course, try to implement this through the legislative method again, which is the typical way that you would create a big program like this. Now, of course, the president tried to work with Congress initially. It didn't happen. He could try and go back to Congress, and he's not likely to be any luckier next time, but it is an option. The other thing is there's another statute that he could look at, the Higher Education Act, and he could ask his Secretary of Education if they can try and implement a similar rule under that different statute. That statute doesn't provide for taking this type of action in emergency circumstance, so there would be a lengthier process of, notice and rulemaking. And I think that's why the president didn't want to take that path in the first place.
Okay, so really, if there is any kind of remedy, if you will, it would really be over an extended period of time, maybe not even before the election in 2024.
I think any remedy is unlikely, and exactly as you said, absolutely extended. We're not talking about weeks or months here.
Okay, so what about the other side of the argument? You heard it in Major Garrett's reporting, folks saying, you know, I paid off my loans, I took responsibility for them. Why should taxpayer money, sort of essentially my money, be used to take off their debt? Is this at all reflected in the court's decision?
It is. You see it as part of the court's decision. You heard it in oral arguments. And part of what the conservative majority was saying is there are a number of people who made decisions either not to take out loans, to pay off their loans, or to take out loans that aren't student loans and would not be forgiven, would not at least be partially paid back by the government. And so what the justices in part were saying is kind of two very different things. On the one hand, look at the practical implications to a lot of people who decided not to take out loans, to take out different loans, or who already paid off their loans. On the other hand, they were also saying this is just not based on whether we think this is good policy, but looking at the statutory language and looking at whether or not this program is, as Major reported, a waiver or a modification.
Just a final few seconds here. Were you surprised at all by the outcomes this week? And as Major noted, so many marquee issues have already been taken on by this court.
Not surprised by this week. What I was surprised by over the course of the term is that there were a number of cases where there were 4 votes to take the case. Think about the independent state legislature doctrine, that big election law case. Think about the voting rights case out of Alabama. And think about the social media cases. And in all of those, the court kind of pulled back before the opinion and maintained the status quo. Really interesting to see if that will be a trend.
Jessica Levinson, thanks for your analysis.
Thank you.